I never planned to meet the woman who would change my life on a rainy Tuesday, wearing a shirt with flowers still on the sleeve, holding flowers I bought out of guilt. But that is exactly how it happened. My name is Flynn Carter. I am 25 years old, and I run a small bakery called Sweet Corner on the outskirts of Portland, Oregon. It sits between a hardware store and a laundromat, with old mismatched tables I picked up from yard sales. Most days the place smells like cinnamon and fresh bread, and honestly, that is enough for me. I live in a tiny apartment right above the shop, where the floors creak and the kitchen feels like an extension of the bakery below. My life is simple. I wake up at 4 every morning, knead dough while the city sleeps, bake until the sun comes up, and talk with my regulars until I close by mid-afternoon. Then I clean, eat something quick, and sleep early. No drama, no big dreams. Baking has always been my thing. I learned it as a kid helping my mom, and I never really stopped. Watching dough turn into something warm that makes people smile feels right to me. Romance was never part of the plan. I had a girlfriend once, but she got tired of the early nights and flour-covered clothes. She said I was stuck. Maybe she was right. I was fine being on my own. My mom was the only one who disagreed. She believed I needed more. And that belief is how I ended up agreeing to something I never should have. It was raining hard that afternoon when my phone buzzed while I was glazing croissants. It was my mom. She told me my older brother Rowan had a blind date that night set up through one of her friends. She had been so excited about it, but Rowan was sick with the flu and could not go. She begged me to step in just to explain so the woman would not feel stood up. I groaned, but I could never say no to my mom. I cleaned up as best I could, grabbed a cheap bouquet of daisies from a corner store, and headed downtown. The cafe was warm and smelled like coffee and butter. I was late when I walked in, the bell above the door ringing softly. I scanned the room, and then I saw her. She was sitting by the window, calm and composed, holding a white mug. Her name was Emma Bennett. She looked a little older than me, with brown hair pulled back and eyes that seemed sharp but kind at the same time. She was not checking her phone or looking annoyed. She just waited. I walked over feeling foolish and told her the truth. I explained that I was not Rowan, that he was sick, and that my mom sent me to explain. I handed her the flowers, apologizing. She surprised me by smiling. She told me to sit down. She asked why I was covered in flour, and just like that, everything started to change. I told her about the bakery, about Sweet Corner, and how my morning started before most people even woke up. I expected her to nod politely and lose interest. Instead, her eyes lit up. She said she had been there before, that my almond croissants were her favorite. That alone made me sit a little straighter. Her name was Emma Bennett, and she worked as a finance consultant downtown. She said it like it was no big deal, but I could tell she was sharp, confident in a way I was not used to being around. Still, the conversation felt easy. There were no awkward pauses or forced questions. We talked like two people who had known each other longer than an hour. I told her about accidentally baking a cake with salt instead of sugar once. She laughed, a real laugh that filled the small cafe and made me forget why I was there in the first place. She told me about running along the river in the mornings to clear her head from work stress. She said it was the only time she felt free. At some point, the rain outside faded into the background. I forgot that this was never meant to be my date. It felt calm, natural. When she checked her watch, it was not because she was bored. She said she had to go, but she looked relaxed, like she did not regret coming. Before we left, she said she might stop by my bakery sometime. I told her she was welcome anytime and that the first croissant would be on me. She smiled in a way that stayed with me longer than it should have. I walked back to Sweet Corner in the drizzle, my mind oddly quiet. I told myself it was nothing, just a nice conversation, just a strange favor for my mom. A week passed, busy and familiar. Early mornings, regular customers, same routines. I did not expect to see her again. Then one crisp Tuesday morning, the bell above the bakery door rang and I looked up from the counter. Emma was standing there, sunlight catching in her hair, smiling like she belonged. She asked for an almond croissant and black coffee. And just like that, my quiet routine shifted, even if I did not realize it yet. I poured her coffee and slid the croissant across the counter, still warm from the oven. She leaned against the counter like she had done it 100 times before, watching me work. It was not busy yet, so we talked while I prepped the next tray. She asked about baking, about how I learned, why I chose this life. I told her the truth. That I liked simple things. That baking made sense to me in a way nothing else ever had. She listened, really listened, not glancing at her phone or rushing the moment. She stayed longer than I expected, asking questions about dough and ovens like she actually cared. Before leaving, she bought a box of pastries for her office and waved goodbye like she would be back. And she was. The next Tuesday she came in again. This time she stayed even longer, sitting at the counter with her laptop open but barely touching it. She joked that my bakery had better energy than her office. I told her she was welcome any time. Soon, Tuesdays became our thing. She would come in, order the same croissant and black coffee, and sit while I worked. Sometimes she helped wipe the counter. Once she asked to see the kitchen in the back. I handed her an apron, and she laughed as she tied it on. I showed her how to knead dough. Her hands were awkward at first, pressing too softly. Without thinking, I guided her hands. Our fingers brushed, and the moment felt heavier than it should have. We laughed it off, but something changed. I started learning things about her. That her job drained her more than she admitted. That her apartment downtown felt empty despite the view. Sometimes she would stare out the bakery window like she was somewhere else. One morning she came in looking tired. I did not push. I just told her she was always welcome here. Her smile that day was quiet, grateful. That night, walking upstairs to my apartment, I realized something unsettling. I was starting to look forward to Tuesdays more than anything else in my week. Things stayed easy between Emma and me, at least on the surface. But that changed the day my brother Rowan walked into Sweet Corner. He showed up in a sharp suit, looking out of place against the worn tables and flour-dusted counter. The shop was quiet. I greeted him like normal, but his eyes kept drifting around the bakery like he was judging it. He got straight to the point. Mom had told him about the blind date mix-up. He had also heard that Emma had been spending a lot of time at my bakery. He lowered his voice and said her name like it was a warning. I told him she was just a regular now, a friend. Rowan did not buy it. He reminded me that the date was meant for him. That Emma had a big job, a penthouse, a polished life. He said she was not the type to hang around a place like mine for long. His words were calm, but they hit hard. I laughed it off, but after he left, the doubt stuck with me. That night, as I cleaned the bakery, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Emma. She asked if I wanted to go out and try some food trucks by the river. She said it would be her treat. I almost said no. Rowan's voice echoed in my head. But I went anyway. We walked along the waterfront, sharing greasy pizza and laughing like kids. She teased me about my plain taste in ice cream. I teased her for putting pineapple on pizza. For the first time, I saw her relaxed, not polished or guarded. We ended up back at the bakery, sitting on the old couch in the back room, eating ice cream straight from the carton. The shop was quiet, lights low. She opened up about work, about a deal that failed, about feeling tired of always having to be strong. I told her it was okay to admit when things hurt. She looked at me like no one had said that to her in a long time. When I walked her to her car later, my heart was racing. As she drove away, I knew something had changed. Whatever this was between us, it was not just friendship anymore. After that night, everything felt different, even though we never said it out loud. Emma started coming by more than just Tuesdays. Sometimes Thursdays. Sometimes she would text in the middle of the week, asking me to save her a scone or just saying she needed a break from numbers and meetings. I liked having her there. Too much, maybe. But the outside world started to notice, and with it came noise I was not ready for. One afternoon, Emma came into the bakery quieter than usual. She ordered her coffee but barely touched it. When I asked if she was okay, she hesitated, then told me what happened at work. A colleague had asked why she was spending so much time with a baker from the suburbs. They said she could do better, that it looked like she was lowering herself. I tried to brush it off, but the words hit a nerve. They sounded too much like what Rowan had said. A few days later, one of my regulars joked that I better be careful with a woman like her. Even my mom called, gently asking if I was sure this was a good idea. Everyone meant well, but every comment fed the same doubt. Was I holding her back? I did not talk to Emma about it. I did not want to be the one to plant fear where there did not need to be any. Still, I could feel her pulling back too, just a little, like she was questioning things on her end as well. Then one rainy Saturday morning she texted me early. She asked if she could come by and learn how to bake something. She wanted to make a dessert for my mom's birthday. That surprised me. I said yes. She showed up in casual clothes, laughing as she tied an apron around her waist. We decided on lemon bars. She was terrible at cracking eggs and spilled flour everywhere. We laughed so hard we had to stop just to catch our breath. As we cleaned up, she went quiet. She told me her penthouse felt empty, that her job paid well but left her drained. She said this bakery felt real in a way her life downtown never did. Then she said something that stole the air from my chest. She told me she wanted to move in with me, and suddenly the doubts did not feel so small anymore. I stared at her, sure I had misunderstood. Move in. With me. Above the bakery. I reminded her how small the place was. The early mornings. The constant smell of flour in the air. I asked if she was certain this was not just an escape from work stress. She did not hesitate. She said the penthouse was beautiful but empty, that her job paid well but left her drained. She said this bakery felt alive, real in a way her downtown life never did. I finally admitted what had been sitting in my chest for weeks, that I was just a baker, that one day she might regret choosing this life with me. Saying it out loud made my voice shake. She reached for my hand and told me I was more than enough. She said I was the man who showed up when he did not have to, the one who listened without judgment, the one who created things that made people happy. That was enough for her. We sat on the kitchen floor, the smell of lemon filling the air, the world quiet around us. It was not dramatic, no rush, just understanding. A few days later, she arrived with boxes and a nervous smile. She moved into my tiny apartment like she belonged there. Our first night was simple, takeout on the couch, talking until late. Mornings changed. She woke early with me, tying on an apron, helping with dough while I brewed coffee. There were rough moments, a broken oven during a rush, small arguments over space and supplies. But even then, it felt right. I watched the tension leave her shoulders over time, and slowly, I stopped questioning myself. She chose this life. She chose me, and for the first time I believed that was enough. A year passed faster than I ever expected. Life did not turn into some perfect dream, but it grew into something solid and real. The bakery changed, slowly and quietly, just like us. Emma helped in ways I never asked for. She suggested small ideas that made a big difference, posting daily specials online, partnering with nearby offices for morning orders. Nothing flashy, just smart choices. Sweet Corner started doing better, not rich but steady, enough to fix things that had been broken for years. Our days found a rhythm. I woke at 4 like always, but now she woke with me, pulling on an old sweater and helping measure flour. She kept some of her finance work part-time, setting up a small desk in the back. Customers loved her. They trusted her smile. They bought extra pastries just because she recommended them. The apartment above the shop felt full now. 2 aprons on the wall, her running shoes by the door, notes stuck to the fridge reminding me to eat lunch or telling me I was her favorite baker. Evenings were simple, dinner on the couch, quiet talks about the day, laughter over mistakes. We argued sometimes, about space, about stress. Once, after a long day, she snapped about the chaos of the bakery. I laughed and told her it was our chaos. She hugged me and said she would not trade it for anything. Family came around too. My mom saw us together and finally understood. She hugged Emma and called her family. Even Rowan apologized. He said he was wrong, that I had something special. Emma never missed her old life. When customers asked if she missed the penthouse, she smiled and said no view beat fresh bread and real laughter. She would catch my eye across the shop, and I would feel that same quiet pull I felt the first time she sat at the counter. Sometimes, on quiet nights, we stood outside the bakery, the sign glowing softly above us. She would squeeze my hand and remind me how a blind date mistake changed everything. I never went looking for love. I was just a baker who showed up when he did not want to. But somehow, in doing that, I found the woman who chose my world over hers. And every morning, as the ovens warm and the shop fills with the smell of bread, I know that choice changed my life forever.